You know your chords, you've learned a few songs, you've put the hours in. So why does it feel like you're still not improving? If you're stuck in that frustrating middle zone where you're not a total beginner, but you're also not where you want to be, don't worry, you're not alone. Over the years, I've worked with hundreds of piano players at this stage, and nearly all of them were making the same 5 mistakes. So in this video, I'm going to walk through what those mistakes are and how you can move past them. Let's dive in. Okay, this is a big one. Do you ever sit down at the piano and think, what should I work on? Maybe you play a few things, maybe noodle around, but it doesn't really feel like progress. Well, that is because you're playing, not practicing. The thing is, real piano practice, it needs structure, and it doesn't matter whether that structure changes over time and you tweak things here and there, but actually you just need that routine to build your skills so you can really actually see that progress. I guess to draw an analogy here, it would be a little bit like going to the gym and just, I don't know, doing a press up and then thinking, oh, I'm going to have a quick go at doing a chin up, do one chin up. Then you do maybe a deadlift and think, oh, I'm a bit bored of that now. I'm now going to go and do something else, a bit of time on the treadmill. There's just no real focus. What are you working on? Okay, that's the main question. What are you working on? I'm a big fan of what I call the 360-degree practice method. And what I'd recommend doing for this is get yourself a little notebook, and before you practice, write down exactly what you're going to do. Even if you have something like 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes is a really good practice session. We're all busy, right? We all have lots of stuff going on in our lives, but you can get a lot done in 20 minutes if it's focused practice. I think some people think they have to practice for hours and hours and hours and hours, and that doesn't actually get you results. What does get you results is focused work. So let's have a think. What would I do in that 20 minutes? Well, the first 5 minutes might be spent doing some creative warm-up exercises or technique kind of based activities, but not just going through the motions, always trying to slightly edge up the difficulty of what I'm doing. The next 5 minutes, I'd recommend spending on one thing. So it might be a fill you're working on, or a chord voicing, or it could be anything, but just spend 5 minutes working on that. And then in the next 10 minutes, incorporate that thing that I've been working on into an actual song. Okay, and what you're doing there, you will have warmed up, you will have got everything going, you will have then worked on something and then put it into an actual musical context, which is where it's going to be used in the wild when you're out playing and you're performing and all those kinds of things, or just playing for yourself. But it's in putting it into the music that progress really happens. So for that to work, I'd recommend doing each practice session in one key. Yeah, so you might do the whole day in C major. All your warm-ups are in C, your little fill or your chord is in C, and then you're going to put it into a song also in C, and there's your 20 minutes. Practice routines don't have to be complex at all, but when you've got a routine, you're really going to notice a difference in your playing. So many people, when they start learning the piano, they maybe get themselves a teacher. They think, that's what I'm going to do, that's what people do, I'll get myself a piano teacher. And more often than not, the way their piano teacher will teach them is how they were taught. Okay, which is maybe learning pieces of classical music and reading everything from the notation. If you want to be able to play a piece by Mozart or a piece by Rachmaninoff and do recitals and all that kind of thing, absolutely, that approach of learning piano will get you there. However, if you're someone who wants to be able to sit down and play freely from a chord chart, or maybe listen to a song on Spotify or YouTube and then work it out by ear, or whatever it is, you maybe need to find a different approach. I'm not for 1 second saying that reading music is like a really bad thing and you shouldn't do it. It's really, really useful, but it isn't the be all and end all. Okay, there is another way to learning piano, which is to adopt what I call a chord-based approach. And what that means is that every time you sit down and play, you have a framework to play from, which is the chord changes, okay? So you know the chords in the song you're playing, but every time you play it, it might be slightly different. And that's the great thing, right? You can adapt how you're playing a song depending on the mood you're in, or the people you're playing with, or how you're feeling. It's up to you how you want to play it. When you learn by sheet music, you're essentially given an exact recipe of how to play that song. There's no real scope for embellishment or changing it. Each note for note, is written out for you, and it's about following that. And actually, when you adopt this different way of playing, it's so much more freeing, and you can begin to kind of just experiment and see what comes out. That's the great thing about it, right? Now, I'm not for one moment saying it's easy to adopt this chord-based approach, but at the end of it, you're going to have so many new opportunities and ideas at the piano, and it's really just going to open you up. It's going to be so freeing. That's the best thing about this. When I started learning piano, I had classical piano lessons, and I think it would be safe to say that I didn't vibe with that way of learning. It didn't work for me. The idea of having to recreate exactly what was on the page, note for note, with all the dynamics and articulations, it just kind of felt like I could only do it wrong. It kind of felt like every time I made a mistake, it was like a mark against me, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas actually what I wanted to do was just sit down and play and make stuff up and jam and write songs. And as I got older, I realized that all of the musicians that I really respected and I really loved, they didn't learn to play the piano through reading music. They learned much more organically. They might have learned a bit of sight reading music on the side, but it wasn't everything they did. They had that creative outlet. It's about changing your mindset and finding a way to adapt to a chord-based approach. Now, if you're thinking, Adam, where do I even start learning this chord-based approach? Well, this channel is a great place to begin. All of the videos on this channel take this approach and begin to kind of introduce you to the concepts you need to understand. I've actually linked a video below, and it looks like this. That's what the thumbnail looks like. It takes you through how to get familiar with chord charts, okay? All the steps you need to go through. Go check that out. You'll hopefully find that really, really useful. Now, I'm not saying technique isn't important. It is important, but there is something about piano players, and I don't quite know what it is. We become very obsessed with technical exercises very quickly. And I've met a lot of people that are really great at playing technical exercises and all this kind of thing, but they don't actually play any songs or any music. And to me, that's kind of so sad, because you're getting all your fingers to kind of work and do all the things they need to be able to do as a piano player, but then you haven't got an outlet to get the music out. It's kind of quite strange. I'm not for 1 second saying just forget about technique. You do need to have a good piano technique, but you also need to know when to stop working on your technique and focus on music. Now, for this, I talk about the 20-80 rule, okay? The 20-80 rule. This is something you should always remember. I think 20% of your practice should be focused on technique, okay? And technique doesn't have to be crazy technical exercises necessarily. It can just be making sure that your fingers are operating as they should. And 80% should be focused on music. Things that you can actually use when you're playing songs, when you're jamming, when you're working stuff out by ear, or coming up with an arrangement of something. That is where the real progress is going to happen. Generally speaking, if you're someone who can play the ideas you want to be able to play, then I'd say it's likely that your technique is good and it's working for you. Put that practice energy into actually working on music and things that you can use and you can play when you're playing songs. Chords, voicings, grooves, fills, licks. All of these things help develop you as a creative piano player. Technique is very much a tool, not a destination. If you're only lifting weights and not actually going out and playing the match, you're missing out on all the fun. So that would be my top recommendation. Don't spend too long working on your technique. Is that radical? Maybe it is quite radical. Drop a comment below if you agree with me. Drop a comment below. This is something I always encourage. Playing with actual songs. Play along with recordings. It's strange. Lots of bass players, drummers, and guitarists do this. They do this a lot, okay? It's something they do. They jam along with the track. But as piano players, we very rarely do this. I think we kind of think that we're more of a solo instrument, so we need to just be able to create things on our own. And that is the case. Solo piano is very much a thing. But actually, even if you want to be able to play solo, you can learn so much from jamming with tracks. The thing is, we now have access to so much music, whether it's Spotify, YouTube, whatever you use, you can have access to the best musicians in the world, okay, at the touch of a button, right? It's incredible the times we live in. You can play songs and jam along with them, even if they're super, super simple, even if you're not entirely sure what's going on. See if you can pick it out. See if you can work out what's going on. That is great time spent, okay? Working stuff out, jamming with tracks. I literally would encourage that for everyone watching this channel. Some people go through their whole life playing piano and never experience the joy of playing with other musicians. I'm someone that actually came to playing piano with other people quite late. I'd already been playing for about 10 years by the time I sort of really properly played with other musicians. I had all of that time of just playing solo piano. And I tell you, I met a bass player and a drummer. I suddenly had my own rhythm section. And we just used to, it just completely opened up my entire world playing with other musicians. So if you're someone that, I don't know, maybe you live in the middle of nowhere and you don't have other musicians around you, that's fine. You've got the best musicians in the world at the touch of a button on Spotify or YouTube. Find a track you really like and just sit along and see if you can work out what's going on. Even if it's just a couple of chords that you've worked out, that work is huge. You're developing your ear, you're developing your rhythm, you're developing your groove, you're developing your keyboard knowledge. So much is going on when we do this. But for some reason, piano players, we don't do this as much as other instruments. So jam along, play with other musicians. It's going to make a huge difference to your playing. Get specific. This is really important, right? So many people I meet say, oh, I'd love to learn piano, but that isn't specific enough. It's a bit like saying, I want to learn to cook. Well, what do you want to learn to cook? Do you want to be able to bake amazing cakes? Do you want to be a Michelin star chef? Do you want to be able to cook Thai food? Do you want to... All of these different things. In order to make progress and get to where you want to be, you have to think, what is my goal here? Do you want to jam in a band or, I don't know, play jazz standards or solo piano arrangements of lush pop songs or accompany a singer? Or do you want to be able to write film scores? And that's why you need the piano to be able to kind of get your compositions down. Have a think about exactly what you'd like to be able to do. And when you have that really clear in your mind, your practice becomes so much more effective because it's all tailored towards that goal. By the way, this doesn't mean that you can't explore different styles and try different things out. But I think once you hit a certain level, going deep into one thing is really how you unlock that next stage of growth. And the thing is, once you find a direction you want to go in, my biggest advice to everyone watching this channel right now, this is probably the biggest piece of advice I'll give you, find a teacher that can do what you want to be able to do. So often in piano education, I see people trying to learn how to play, I don't know, jazz standards from a classical piano teacher that doesn't like improvising, or someone who wants to be able to jam in a band, but then they're learning it from someone that only plays solo piano arrangements. Or do you see where I'm going with this? You have to find a teacher that inspires you. And we've all had teachers in our lives that we just think, wow, that person just really ignited something for me. It made me want to learn. It made me want to get better. They were able to demonstrate the things I'm trying to do. And it just kind of all clicked into place. Once you get a good teacher, then you can really begin to progress. Now, teachers aren't available for everyone in every part of the world. I'm well aware of that. But what I would recommend is if you are going to get a teacher or find someone to teach you online or whatever it is, make sure they can play how you want to be able to play, because they're really going to be able to get you there so much quicker than the other routes you might find yourself taking. So to sum that up, get clear, go deep, and surround yourself with the right influences, because that's really going to help you get to that next level. Now, if you're still watching this video, that tells me that you're really motivated to improve your piano playing. And I have just the thing for you. This video up here is one that YouTube thinks you're really going to enjoy. It's a video I made a little while back, but I think you're going to love it. Go give that video a click, and I'll see you over there.